one of the most successful of our pop groups. They've had 3 singles and 3 #1 hits. The extraordinary Frankie Goes to Hollywood. But first of all, their moving spirit. Holly Johnson. It seems to me that you sort of plunged into things rather quickly. Having had enormous success very quickly here, you then rushed off to America. That was a pretty plucky thing to do, wasn't it?
Indeed, we kind of plunged very deeply into the kind of arena, so to speak, the kind of pop music thing and the media and flashbulbs and everything kind of related with that, yeah. And we went over to America, though, as a kind of testing ground, because we got this kind of really strange press that kind of said, you know, oh, they can't play the instruments.
Where? Here in America?
In England, yes.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So
you did. You got good
there.
press, a lot of attention, but there was the accusation that the whole thing was a hype. That,
Indeed.
Yeah. But it wasn't, was it?
Well, there are certain elements that you use when you market a product. For example, you know, you have a nice set, for example, or, you know, you package your records really nicely, or wear a red tie, things like that, you know.
With a blue stripe?
Indeed.
Yeah. Think that's a mistake, do you?
And not a mistake, it's very colourful.
Would you have got off the ground? It's the question you must be fed up of, but for the benefit of my audience, I'm at my nose again. I've had a lot of trouble with the old Hoover today. Yeah. But would you have got off the ground as quickly? Doubtless you would have got off the ground. But would you have got off the ground as quickly if Mike Reid hadn't decided that you were unplayable on the BBC?
Most definitely.
Most definitely yes. You would have got off the ground. But you wouldn't have done it as quickly, would you? I mean, it was a lot of good publicity for you.
In a way, I've got my little theory about the way the BBC kind of put the kind of stamp of ban on Frankie Goes to Hollywood. As the BBC are kind of a government-linked situation, I'm sure they did it to improve the balance of payments, because the record did really well abroad.
Here, of course, and it did make you even more anti-establishment.
Well, yeah, it's the whole thing about, you know, the pop musician, like a rock rebel that the teenagers identify. Yeah, I suppose it did.
Is that where you see yourself? Do you see yourself as anti-establishment? Do you think pop music has to be that way?
It does in a way. What it has to do, I think, is kind of stimulate the youth of a generation to kind of be a bit cocky, you know, and not kind of accept everything around them, you know, and what's going on.
But if you have a certain kind of image, and without mentioning any names, it's quite obvious that certain singers have a certain kind of image. It becomes enormously popular for a year or so, and then goes out of fashion. How can you cope with that?
Well, pop music is a very transient kind of life. It can be, you know, the fortune of people go up and down. Like last year, for example, I was signing on in Liverpool, kind of Renshaw Street, you know, you go and sign on and everything.
For the Dome?
Yes. And this year, and I'm on the Terry Wogan show, it's dead weird.
It's now, isn't it? Downward all the way, hasn't it?
Totally, yeah.
How do you feel about the kids you've left behind?
Well, I was talking to the Liverpool Echo when I was in Los Angeles recently, and they said, you know, what's...
Why didn't you talk to the Los Angeles Times? Why are you talking to the Liverpool Echo when you're in Los Angeles?
I think the Liverpool Echo needed it a bit more than the Los Angeles Times. Anyway, I was just kind of saying, you know, it's really strange to be here in LA, kind of, although I was working my butt off, to put it proverbially, and kind of remembering, like, last December, less than a year, you know, walking up the street, going to sign on, and seeing other people in the queue and stuff. In a way, I think that if people kind of, you know, recognize me from that queue, and the other lads, of course, that it will kind of uplift them slightly and think, well, you know, if that Alas can do it, so can I.
Well, the way you're going with, what, 3 single hits out of 3 is not bad. Can you sustain that? How do you see the band continuing?
Well, I'm not a gypsy, but you know, we'll just go on doing what we like to do, and as long as it remains fashionable or entertaining to, you know, the public, then they'll kind of subsidize our careers if, you know, they're entertained enough by it. It's just that, and if we come out with rubbish, then they won't buy it, so it's just that, really.
Well, it's nice to
Teddy
meet you.
Wogan's got green eyes. Isn't that weird?
Holly
Do you drink
Johnson.
Guinness?
Huh?
Do you drink Guinness?
Not during the programme, but immediately after. I stir several pints. And I also take something from each he knows. But it's a pleasure to meet you, and thank you.
Cool.
Holly Johnson. Holly Johnson and the rest of Frankie Goes to Hollywood and the Power of Love.
Feels like fire. I'm so in love with you. Dreams are like angels. They keep at bay. Love is the light, scaring darkness away. Yeah. I'm so in love with you, hurts the soul. Make love your goal. The power of love, a force from above, cleaning my soul. Flame on burn desire, love with tongues of fire, burns the soul. Make love your I'll protect you from the rugged floor. Keep the vampires from your door. When the chips are down, I'll be around with my undying, death-defying love for you. Envy will hurt itself. Let yourself be beautiful. Sparkling love flowers and pearls and pretty girls. Love is like an energy, rushing inside of me. Yeah. The power of love, a force from above, cleaning my soul. Flame on burn desire, love with tongues of fire, burns the soul. Make love your goal. This time we go sublime. Lovers entwined, divine, divine. Love is danger, love is pleasure. Love is pure, the only treasure. I'm so in love with you, hurts the soul. Make love your the power of love, a force from above, cleaning my soul.
keep the vampires from your door.
Holly Johnson, Frankie Goes to Hollywood. My thanks to